Okay, Rosa, would you like to introduce the next speaker?
Well, I think that it is the same that introduced you or myself. Stephen Gullberg is a very good friend that us, and he is a professor in the University of Oklahoma, and he is an expert in culture, in Inca culture, and I am sure that after the speech of Stephen, probably all of us, we need to visit Peru again. But well, thank you, Stephen, and please, it's your turn.
No, you are mute, Stephen.
Thanks for reminding me. The presentation is just populating now. It'll take a few more seconds. But anyway, yeah, I'm Steve Gullberg, and like my friend Stan, who you just listened to his wonderful talk, I work a lot with archaeoastronomy, astronomy and culture. At the University of Oklahoma, I'm their director for archaeoastronomy, and at the IAU, I'm their chair for the working group for archaeoastronomy. What I want to talk about today is Inca astronomy, but also some aspects that I like to use when I'm talking to school teachers and students to help them understand the solar horizon events that were observed by the Incas. So I usually start out to, just letting them know what archaeoastronomy is. And of course, it's the study of astronomy as it was used by ancient cultures. And then in a drawing here similar to one that Stan showed, I start talking about the way that the sunrise and sunset moves along the horizon during the course of the year. This is an image from the southern hemisphere here, of course, because that's where the focus of my research was for the Incas. And I continue to explain to them why it moves. And of course, it relates to the tilt of the Earth's axis. And as the Earth rotates around or revolves around the sun, the axis always pointing in the same direction is what has the sunrise and sunset moving along the horizon. And this is, of course, showing the orientation for that, and also it's what causes our seasons. What I'm going to do now is show as an example to help illustrate this, and this is something that it's a long research observation type experiment, but something kids can do. Many years ago, when my son was in 6th grade, 12 years old, he for an entire year photographed the sunset from the same window in our house to show the way that the sunset traveled along the horizon between the June solstice, which is over here on the right, and then the equinox. And this would represent here the September equinox, and then the December solstice. The sun tracked along the horizon. So there was the photo that he took at the time of the June solstice. And yeah, I'm gonna get the chat out of the way. It blocked my, there we go. And then a month later, it was starting to move over to the left. And then in August, it moved to the other side of the tree. And then in September, it was over our neighbor's house. And then in October, to the left of the house. And then a little further in November, and then in December, it came to December solstice to standstills. This, of course, is the point where the sun does not move any further left. It stops there, and then it starts going back to the right. And he did follow it to the right all the way back, but I won't show the rest of those slides now. But you can see where, you know, he photo documented the sunsets going between the two solstices and the equinox in between. And this also helps to illustrate that the Earth's axis is indeed tilted. So anyway, on to the astronomy of the Inca Empire, the solar events that they observed. The Incas, you know, as you could see on that prior, you know, I'll go put it back here just a second. It's very easy for cultures to see where these solstices are because the sun stops and then it reverses course and goes back. The equinox is a little less obvious. So a lot of cultures, the Incas included, didn't use it as much as they did the solstices. So astronomy was an integral part of the Andean mythology and creation. And if I could ask everyone to quit in the chat just for a few minutes, it keeps interrupting me with the type of screen sharing I'm doing. The Incas thought themselves to be the children of the sun. They worshiped it and viewed their emperor as being the sun's direct descendant. And here is where the Inca Empire was, along the west coast of South America, starting the very southern parts of Colombia, going through Ecuador and through Peru, Bolivia, and into Chile and the upper part of Argentina. The Incas learned the cycles of solstices, equinoxes, and used that knowledge for crop management and religious festivals. Many of their wakas or shrines are oriented for the June solstice sunrise and others for the December solstice sunrise. And there's light tubes and caves and such that are also oriented with solar effects. And pillars were set on hills to mark the passage of the sun, so they know exactly what date they were looking for. The Incas also recognized dark constellations in the Milky Way. And the Milky Way on 2 different days, the winter solstice, or the June solstice and the December solstice, the sun will rise with where the Milky Way happens to be at the time. So they recognize that. And they saw these dark constellations in the dark patches, the interstellar gas dust that was blocking the light of the stars behind them. And this was their snake and a toad and a bird, a yutu, the mother llama, the baby llama, a fox, and another yutu, or another bird. But let me give you some examples just from some of the field research I did. I've spent a lot of time in the Andes in Peru. Canco Grande is a very, very large granite outcropping here. Many people could stand up on it at the same time, but it has an interesting light and shadow effect the Incas created there. In the morning of the June solstice, there's a crevice. It's just off to the lower left of this picture that'll allow the sunrise light to come through and first illustrate one eye and then the other eye and cast a shadow for the face of the puma. That was one of the 3 sacred creatures in the Inca cosmology: the condor for the world above, the puma for the here and now, and of course the serpent for the world underworld. There's the crevice that I was talking about. In the side of Canco Grande, there's a finely carved altar, and on the far side of that altar, there are these stairs that at the time of the June solstice, more toward local noon, the sun climbs the stairs in an effect that they could have been using in ceremonies on the altar. Here's the sun beginning, and then it's starting to climb the stairs, and then it gets up to the top of the stairs and points over toward the altar.